As we begin our transition into the actual fear process, there's one additional concept that's really helpful for you to understand the power of the subconscious mind, and that is the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system, or as some people refer to it, the RAS, the RAS, what it is, it's a filter in your brain that decides what you notice and what you don't notice. Scientists estimate that at any given moment, there are 6 million bits of information that you could notice, right? Sights and shapes and sounds and smells and movements, all these things going on around us. But the conscious mind typically can only focus on one thing at a time. So how do you decide what you're going to notice and what you don't notice? Well, that's what the reticular activating system does. It decides what you need to notice because it decides what's relevant to you and what's not relevant to you. For example, suppose you're driving down the main street in your town and you just had a huge Thanksgiving dinner at your grandmother's house. You'll drive right by every restaurant and you won't even notice them. But drive down that same street at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're starving. You'll notice every single restaurant and try to figure out which one you want to stop to eat at. The reality is the reticular activating system's job is to keep you alive by helping you notice the things that you need to notice. You can go through life not noticing things because they simply don't matter. But here's why it's so important. Suppose that your expectation in life is that you're going to make $50,000 a year. Now, nobody ever told you you're going to make 50 grand a year. That's just an expectation that you develop because your dad was middle income, your brother's middle income, everybody's middle income. Hell, that's just who we are, middle income folks. So I have an expectation of making 50 grand a year. The problem with that, if a $200,000 opportunity comes past you, the reticular activating system will filter that out. Why? Because in your mind, it's irrelevant to your well-being. After all, you're looking for ways to make 50 grand a year. The reticular activating system is what helps you notice the things that you need to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. This is why we say it's so important to elevate your expectations and to dream big. You got to make big dreams relevant to you so your reticular activating system will go out there always looking for the resources, the people, the opportunities, the things you need to make your dreams reality. But if there's something that's not a dream to you, it won't even notice. The reticular activating system's job is to keep you alive. Imagine this scenario. Imagine you're out on a beautiful hike with your spouse. You're in the mountains somewhere, and there's beautiful stream, and the birds are singing, and beautiful views, and flowers smell so wonderful, and you're walking down this beautiful mountain trail, and then all of a sudden, this mountain lion jumps down on the trail in front of you. Do you notice the fragrant flowers anymore? Do you notice the babbling brook? Do you notice the birds? No. In an instant, your reticular activating system filters out everything else that's unimportant so you can focus on the one thing that matters, which of course is outrunning your wife. No, just kidding. But what matters is that you make sure you deal with this mountain lion that's in the mountain trail. So this is what the reticular activating system does. And listen, here's why this is so important. I have had the pleasure of working with so many successful, wealthy people. And one of the questions I always ask them is, to what do you attribute your success? And one of the things that I've heard 1,000,000 times is timing and opportunity, being in the right place and having the opportunity. But here's the thing. If we don't expect good things are going to happen, we will miss the opportunity. The opportunity can come by, but if we don't think it's relevant to us because that's a $1 million opportunity and I'm looking for ways to make 50 grand, I will miss the opportunity even if I'm at the right time. I'll give an example. I was at a car dealership where I live where I purchased several cars, and it's a very high-end dealership. It's a Range Rover and Jaguar dealership. And I went there to buy a new Range Rover a couple of years ago, and I had to go back to the dealership a couple of days later to swap out some wheels that I had some aftermarket wheels put on the car, and they wanted the original wheels back and whatever it was, but I just had to swap out these wheels. So I went to see the salesman. We were going to ride over to this mini storage unit I had where I had the wheels stored, and he wasn't there. So this other guy in the showroom comes up and says, "Can I help you?" And I said, sure. I said, "I got to pick up some wheels and I need somebody to help me do it." He goes, "Well, I'll go with you." So he jumps in the car. We get in his car, actually. He thought I shouldn't put the new wheels in my brand new car in the back. So we took his SUV over there, and we're driving back to the dealership with the tires. And I said, "By the way, what do you do here at the dealership?" He says, "Oh," he goes, I'm the owner." I said, "You're the owner of the dealership?" I mean, you never would have known this guy. Blue jeans, T-shirt, just out there working, helping customers with tires, right? I said, "You own the dealership?" And I said, "Wow, how did that happen?" And you know what the first thing he said to me was? He said, "I always knew I was going to own this place one day." Right? His expectations were high. And what I learned is that he worked in the service department as a service writer 25 years earlier and worked his way up, became a service writer, went into sales, went into management, and eventually one day the old owner, when he was going to retire, he said, "Man, you're the right guy to buy this place." And he sold him the dealership. So the key is, though, that the timing and opportunity were perfect for him. And he will tell you he credits timing and opportunity for the success that he's had. But the reality is, if we don't see the opportunity because we don't notice, because we didn't think it was possible. I mean, if I'm going through life saying, I could never own a car dealership, right? I'm going to miss the opportunity, not to mention the fact my attitude probably eliminates me from contention for that whole opportunity anyway. But we have to have in our box, we have to have high expectations. We have to have big dreams. You know, I remember seeing a Tony Robbins event recently, and we were doing some work on some incomes, and he said, double it. Whatever you wrote down, double it. And I remember being shocked because my first income goal was so big that doubling it seemed out of the universe. But, you know, I trusted Tony Robbins, and I doubled it. A year and a half later, I was making that new income, the double income. Then I tripled it. I hadn't got to the triple yet, but I'm working on that too. The bottom line is you have to have these expectations real to you. You have to dream big. You have to think big. Now, there's a reason why many of us don't have big dreams, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the fear process next. Because sometimes we have limiting beliefs that have been beat into our brains from other people who had very low expectations for us. Not necessarily because they didn't want us to have nice things, but they thought maybe they were protecting us from dreaming too big. You know how parents can be, right? Or not parents, but adults and, you know, whatever in your life. The bottom line is, in your box, you have to have big dreams. If your expectation is you're going to make 50 grand a year, what are the odds that one year you're going to reach in that box and accidentally pull out 500 grand? You can't pull 500 grand out of a $50,000 box. You got to have 500 grand of expectation in that box first. The reticular activating system is going to notice the opportunities for you to get the things that you need, the resources, people, and opportunities. If you don't believe it's true, the reticular activating system will completely filter out everything else because it thinks it's irrelevant. You have to make success, prosperity, and big dreams relevant to your life.